Hey guys, Crispy here. So just continuing on with the series, and today I'm going to be talking about big guns and mech guns. I'll start off with the big guns because those are the ones that I have the most experience with. In past editions, I've used zap cannons and the lobbers. Um, I found zap cannons weren't all that great. I remember, I don't know if it was in the last codex because I haven't used them in so long, but I remember that you were able to inflict a shaken result in addition to whatever damage you did, and then that wasn't so bad. But yeah, I found that I think the range was fairly low. I think it was either 24 or 30 inches, and then you often would roll fairly low for the strength of the gun. Or you'd roll fairly high and fry a few of your Gretchen crew, so they were just a little bit too random, unfortunately. As for the lobber, well, I found the lobber was really good. I used to take 3 fairly religiously. Um, the the main thing that I found that was great about them was the additional point in strength. The strength 5 was always really good. Um, and you just stick those guys behind some cover. They don't need to see their target, and you just drop bombs all game long until someone decides to go and kill you. So yeah, they were really handy. 48-inch range. They were just really decent. So let's take a look and see how they've changed in the new edition. Big guns in general. Let's have a look. So first off, you've got the big gun. It now has a movement value, so it moves 3 inches. It can hit things, so it's got a weapon skill. It hits on 6 plus. Ballistic skill, it's hitting on 4s. Strength 3, toughness 5, 3 wounds, 1 attack, leadership 6, and a 5 plus save. So it's not too bad a profile. I do think that it's funny that it can actually attack, and in fact, I had a game with my mate the other day where he was using Space Marines, and my big gun actually caused a wound on the land speeder. So I'll have to put little arms on mine or something just to represent it trying to punch people. You can also, along with the big gun, you also purchase grot crew to go along with it. They're fairly cheap. I think they're like 2 points each or something like that. They're inexpensive. And the grot gunners themselves, they can move 5 inches. They hit on 5s in combat. They hit on 4s with their ballistic skill. Their strength and toughness 2, 1 wound, 1 attack, leadership 4, and a 6 plus save. So, I mean, just what you sort of expect for a Gretchen. Obviously, one unit contains 1 big gun and 2 grot gunners. You can include up to 5 additional big guns, each of which is accompanied by 2 grot gunners. Each big gun is equipped with a cannon, a lobber, or a zap gun. So let's take a look at the profiles for those weapons. First off, we've got the trusty cannon. I know that these were quite popular with Orks on the forums and things like that in the past edition, and they look pretty good still. You can pick there's 2 different profiles. So you've got a frag profile, which is 36-inch range, heavy D6, strength 4, AP 0, damage 1, so it's just a standard sort of frag missile. And then you've got the shell cannon shot, which is 36-inch range, heavy 1, strength 8, AP negative 2, and D6 damage. So fairly decent profile on that there. I'm pretty sure it's just the same as a missile. So you're paying for a missile launcher with 3 wounds. Then we've got the lobber, which again is a pretty cool profile. So 48-inch range, so that hasn't changed. It fires heavy D6, so obviously instead of the little profile, which I think heavy D6 is actually better than previously, just because it was only a small blast. Strength 5, AP 0, damage 1. And then it has also an additional ability where it can target units even if they're not visible to the bearer. So it's really handy. Just stick this guy behind some line of sight blocking terrain and shoot D6 shots all game long. I found in my game that it was really handy. I just had 2 of them sitting out the back, and I took a couple wounds off here and there, and even though those wounds didn't actually kill anything, it was just nice to be able to deal that damage. The zap gun, I think the zap gun's actually a little bit better in this edition. So I'll read it out to you. So it's got a 36-inch range, it's heavy 1. The strength again is still the 2d6 random. It's negative 3 AP and it does 3 damage straight. But the cool thing is that if you roll an 11 or higher, then the the target just suffers a straight up 3 mortal wounds, and then you suffer 1 mortal wound. So obviously you can just, I mean, the big gun's got 3 wounds, so you could just say, okay, 1 mortal wound on my big gun, or you could just kill a crew if you wanted to do that, and then just, yeah, you're dealing 3 mortal wounds, and mortal wounds obviously very good. The abilities for all of these, you've got the Grot crew. So a unit of big guns and its accompanying Grot gunners must be deployed with each model within 3 inches of at least one other model from their unit. So obviously 3-inch coherency. From that point on, each big gun and each 2 model group of Grot gunners act as a single unit. So obviously you buy 3 of these guys as a single sort of heavy support choice, but then when you put them down, their kill points are individual sort of thing. So you'll be 3 kill points there. Grot gunners also have a take cover rule, which means that they can only be targeted if they're the closest enemy unit. And then the artillery, it's saying that the big guns can only fire if there's a Grot gunner within 3 inches. And it says a Grot gunner cannot operate multiple big guns in this way in a single turn. So, and it says if all of the Grot gunners within 6 inches of a big gun are slain, it immediately shuts down and is removed from play. So it's cool. So it's a little bit weird in that the individual units, obviously your Grot crew and your big guns, but the Grot crew from another big gun, let's say if someone managed to kill 2 from one of them, if you had 2 on another big gun, they were within 3 and one was within 3 inches of that gun, then it could actually operate it still. So they sort of still are able to support each other in that way. So yeah, so that's big guns. They're reasonably cheap. They come as the base price point for the big gun is 8 points, and then you add on points from there for for the upgrades, like for the lobber. I think it costs 15 points for a lobber and things like that, or 15 points for a cannon. So they're not very expensive, and I think that they're pretty good. I think they're pretty good in this edition. Obviously, you've only got 3 wounds and stuff like that, which is why I think that the lobber might be better, because then you can hide them behind buildings and things. So let's take a look at the Mek Gunz. So I don't have much experience with Mek Gunz, mainly because of the price point. They're quite expensive, and my Ork collection is already fairly extensive, so I just didn't have really reason to add them. But they are better. They're more expensive. The basic price point, I think, for a Mek gun is 15 points, and then you pay for whatever gun you decide to stick on there. So let's take a look at their stats. Movement wise, they move 3 inches. Their weapon skill, they're hitting on 6s. Ballistic skill, hitting on 4s. Strength 3, toughness 5, 6 wounds, which is better than the big gun by 3. 1 attack, leadership 6, and a 5+ save, so that's pretty good. The Grot gunners, they're the same as the big gun Grot gunners, obviously. 5-inch move, hitting on 5s in combat, hitting on 4s with their shooting, strength and toughness 2, 1 wound, 1 attack, leadership 4, and a 6+ save. The unit itself is 1 Mek gun and 5 Grot gunners, so obviously you've got the additional costs of your Grot gunners there, because they're 2 points each, so another 10 points that you're going to add on to the Mek gun. You can include up to 5 additional Mek Gunz, each of which are accompanied by 5 Grot gunners. Each Mek gun is equipped with a bubble chucker, a custom mega cannon, a smasher gun, or a tractor cannon. So let's take a look at the different weapons here. So I really like the bubble chucker. I don't think it's a very competitive choice, but it seems fun. So the rules for it is it's got a 36-inch range, and then it has a whole bunch of stats that you got to fill in. So it's heavy something, strength something, AP something, and damage something. What you do is you roll 4 dice, and then you and your opponent each apply the dice to those stats, starting with the orc player. So obviously if you roll a 6, you stick that as heavy 6. Let's say you roll a 6, a 4, 3, and a 1. Then you could go, okay, I want it to be heavy 6 or strength 6, and then your opponent can say, okay, it's going to shoot once, and so on and so forth, until you apply all the values to those stats. I don't think it's very competitive exactly, as I said, but I do like that mechanic. I think that would be quite fun. Then you've got the custom mega cannon. It's got a 36-inch range, heavy D6, strength 8, -3 to your save, damage D3. And then it has an additional ability. If you roll 1 or more hit rolls of a 1 for this weapon, the bearer suffers a mortal wound after all of this weapon shots have been resolved. So just like an overcharged plasma gun. on a vehicle or something. So yeah, it's a decent profile though. Strength 8, -3, and D3 damage. I mean, you can't complain about that. And you have 5 grot gunners that you could just sort of use as ablative wounds. Then you've got the Smasher gun. So this is a 36-inch range, heavy 1. Its strength is star because it's got the strength in the ability. AP -4 and D6 damage. So when to work out the strength, what you do is instead of wounding the model, you roll 2d6. If the result is equal to or greater than the target's toughness, the attack successfully wounds. So it's only ever really doing, yeah. So I don't know. On average, you're rolling what 7, I think they say is the average on 2 dice. So it's not very reliable. The poor old Smasher gun, but the -4 to the AP and the D6 damage, that is quite good. So that might encourage you to take one of those, but probably not very competitive, and you might want to skip over that one. And then finally you got the tractor cannon, which I think is maybe the best choice out of all of these. So it's got a 36-inch range, heavy 1, strength 8, -2, and D3 damage. But then it has an ability that allows it to deal D6 damage instead to units that can fly. And then it also has, if a tractor cannon destroys a vehicle that can fly, the model automatically crashes and burns. You don't have to roll the dice. So I think the tractor cannon overall is the better choice out of all of them, just because it really has no downsides. It's got a decent strength, it's got decent AP, and then does D6 damage to units that can fly. So it's quite brutal against units like Tau, especially if they take a lot of those suits. Then the Mek Gunz have some additional abilities. So they've got the Grot Crew again. So they deploy exactly the same as the big guns. So you can purchase, up to 6 of these guns as one heavy support choice. But then when they're deployed, they would become 6 individual kill points for missions. Again, the Grot Crew have the same take cover, so they can only be targeted if they're the closest enemy model. And then they've got the same artillery thing going on. So obviously, if there's no Grot Crew within 6 inches of one of the big guns, they shut down. But there's a few tactics that might not be obvious that you can use with these things. One, if your Grot Crew have taken quite a lot of damage and you've only got a few, then you can use the big guns and the Mek Gunz to soak Overwatch, because the guns themselves, as long as there's some Grot Crew within 6 inches of them, they still act normal and they can still move. So they move 3 inches. I don't see anything here saying they can't advance. So you could advance some D6 and then they can charge to the 2D6. So you can use them that way to soak Overwatch. Some other things that you could use, not with the big guns because I've only got the 2 Grot Crew, but with the Mek Gunz with the larger Grot Crew, you can stick the what's he called, the Runt Herd. So let's say the Mek Gun is already leadership 6, but if for some reason you were at some sort of negative modifier on a leadership test and you had to take one, the Runt Herd, he can actually instead inflict D3 mortal wounds on a unit with the Gretchen keyword, which the Grot Gunners have, and they just automatically pass. So I don't know if because I haven't had a proper look at all the other index books, but I imagine that there's probably going to be some sort of way of making someone take those morale tests and inflicting damage that way. So that might be a way of mitigating that. I don't know if you want to build that into your list or not. But yeah, so yeah, overall I think that they're both really good choices. As I said, tractor cannon for your Mek Gunz probably the best choice, and then for your big guns I'd probably go with the lobbers. Obviously the cannon as well is a really good choice, but I think skip over the zap gun if you're going to try and be competitive. And yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up both of these units. I'll show you before I leave, I'll show you this is my lobber. So I use the Forge World Big Lobber because it actually ends up being cheaper than purchasing the lobber from Games Workshop, for me anyway. In Australia here they're quite expensive. So yeah, I had a friend who was buying some stuff from Forge World already, so I just pitched in a little bit on the postage and bought 3 of these guys that I use for my lobbers, and then they also come with these, like a whole bunch of these guys actually. I got heaps and heaps of Grot crew and heaps of these bombs and stuff, so yeah, it wasn't too bad, and I think it works out, I can't remember exactly, but I think they work out about 20 Australian dollars each, which yeah, again is a good choice. And as I always do, we'll go on to those support units. So as I said, runt herds are good for the Mek Gunz because you've got a large enough crew that they might be able to actually, well, not just murder the crew, stopping them from taking that leadership test. Then you've also got your custom force fields. They can also give these units the 5++, although I don't know, with these sorts of ranges and stuff, you probably want your custom force field up with your boys and stuff like that. So I don't know. It all depends on what sort of army you're going to be building. If you're building a gun line, then yeah, custom force field makes sense. And then the pain boys, I believe, work on infantry, which the grot gunners are. So you can get that 6+ feel no pain, which is good because actually grot gunners have got a 6+ save, so same save as an orc boy. So yeah, so there you go guys, that's my take on the big guns and the Mek Gunz. If I've missed anything, please let me know in the comments. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. If you want me to have a look at any of the other units, please let me know. I'm going to be putting up some videos shortly on the Forge World Chaos Index, which I just bought yesterday because I also have a Chaos Force, so I'll be going over a few of those units shortly because I'm super keen about them as well. Anyway, thanks for listening guys, and I'll catch you later.